Call the meeting to order. If you could please join us in the pledge, please. I pledge allegiance
to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Thank you for coming, and we're going to switch the agenda around a little bit. And Jerry, can you want to lead us to the International Fair, please?
Tonight we have the International Fair, an opportunity for all of our students to expose themselves a little bit to cultures outside of New Hampshire, outside of the United States. So if you had a chance to walk through the gymnasium, you'll see displays from countries like Turkey and China, Argentina, England, and France, whatever. We have some students here tonight to kind of display the things they've been working on as they've been learning about these cultures and traditions, foods, and if you had a chance to eat in there, that was great too. Seeing an early start to our board meeting, it worked out pretty well. So actually, let's start out with 5th grade. Mrs. Nickerson and Mrs. Hawkins have brought some students in to talk about their International Fair project.
Well, our project is the British Isles, Northern Ireland, Scotland, England, and did I say Wales? Wales, okay. I wasn't sure where I started from. We thought that would be a good country to expand into because 5th grade studies the United States, and many of our immigrants originally came from that country. So we're, from those countries in that area, many of them came. So the students did several different things that they can show you. One thing that we thought was really interesting, Ms. Hawkins and I had gone to a workshop and learned about some things called lap books, and they're with file folders, and they're just filled with little mini books, pieces of information, just loaded with that. And each child selected a country, and they'll show you what they did. We had a tea party. All the girls, fascinator hats with all the girls. Miss Hawkins did top hats and monocles and mustaches and bow ties for the boys. And yesterday we had kind of a culminating activity because it's such a tradition there to do an afternoon tea. We had the whole activity area set up, and with 10 tables, and each child, 4 at a table, the whole thing with cucumber sandwiches with the edges cut off, and cookies and scones, tea, of course, and lemon, and it was just wonderful. It really was, and they were on the very best behaved dresses, skirts, capri, all looking beautiful. So I've got Juliana and Hunter and Tess and Thomas from my room, and I wonder if you want to talk a little bit of the two from your room, or what you'd like.
And we talked about the difference of between the cultures of maybe a formal culture and an informal culture. We became lords and ladies and showed best regards for each other. So, where do we want to start? From one end to the other?
Sure. Want to show what you did?
Okay. Where did my Emma go? Oh, Emma,
You can stand up. Sure. Just show them what you did a little bit.
Stand next to her.
I did Scotland, and when I did it, I did like my crest and stuff. It's kind of hard to hold it.
You want me to hold it for you a little bit?
Yeah.
Okay.
It opens a lot of different pockets.
So
Quite a lot of
this
work in
side,
there.
I've got like a little bit of facts through here about money and other stuff like that. Through here, I've got little facts of animals, map, and flag. Got castle facts. Some more facts in here. All about different foods and stuff. And money here. Pounds and pence.
Oops, I messed up too.
On my back.
What's on the back?
My flag and
Lady Emma?
I did Wales, and inside I did some of the same things as her.
You can share some. Emma, can you share a couple of facts you've learned?
For this I did the money, and I wrote Wales uses the pound sterling with a picture of the sterling, and there are 1p, 2p, 5p, 10p, 20p, 50p, Z1, and Z2 in coins, Z5, Z10, Z2, 20, and Z50. Taxes in Wales is very expensive, and here I did my passport, and I wrote, like, if I were to go there, I wrote my name and what school I go to and everything, and I wrote, like, facts of all what I saw. Like, I wrote the capital of Wales is Cardiff. There once was 400 castles in Wales. Now there's almost 100. Tea is popular in Wales also. Wales people also wore kilts too. Welsh is what they speak. Welsh is a Celtic language. Wales is one of the 4 parts of the UK, and the national animal is the Welsh dragon.
Thank you, wonderful.
Thank
You
you.
can hold it up and look that way too, Mom.
Yep, it's showing.
So on my cover, I have the England flag, and inside I have the national anthem of England, and it's called God Save Our Queen. And inside I have facts about their license plate, and it's plate, and it stands for God and my right. And this is Big Ben. It's the biggest. It's a great bell of the clock. Its nickname. Okay. And tiger is their national animal. And then their biggest transportation in England is a double-decker bus. And their forecast is usually rainy. And over here I have a passport and places, a lot of the big places that they have in England. Yes, what I did is I did Wales. I did the Welsh government. The Welsh is called, can't read that.
Read it.
I removed.
Yep.
The Welsh government is the executive branch of the developed government in Wales. I did the ingredients of food from Wales. I had stuff for come visit Wales. I did industries in Wales, slate, steel, timber, creative, heavy industries. I did facts. Only 21% of the entire Welsh population of Wales can speak your native language. Famous people from Wales. I did the capital is Cardiff. E1 equals 1 pound. E5 equals 5 pounds. And then on the back, I did Wales is believed to have more castles per square mile than anyone else in the world.
For mine, I did Wales, and what I did
Oh, I'm so
is,
sorry, Jimmy.
They have one of the oldest trees in the world, which is Rangaroo, and it's over 3,000 to 4,000 years old right now. And then there's the Millennium Stadium, which has the largest retractable roof in the stadium in the world. Right here, somebody who was trying to amuse guests at his house actually created lawn tennis during the 1800s. And
Over here I have a word search for 6 famous things from Wales. And Wales is the only country that's not represented on the British flag. Everything else is. And Roald Dahl, the author, was actually born in Wales, and he actually was a hurricane fighter in World War II. And here I have a map of Wales, where that was everything in Wales. And right here I have the flag of Wales, which is a red dragon, white and green flag. And up until the 1980s, it was one of the main producers of coal.
I did England. I did the different types of teas. There was the cream tea, the white tea, the full tea, the finnick, the drum, sports bag. Different ones. The name of the national football team of England is the Lions, the association, the football association. The head coach, Roy Hunt,
They're all interesting. The ones you like the best.
I did the full name is the United Kingdom of Great Britain and Northern Ireland. Flag. And the capital is London. And then I did a flag.
Thank you, Ben. Great, nice
Thank
job.
you very much.
And our kindergarten is so patient sitting and waiting. And they've done a great job at that too.
Yeah, really done a great
We're ready for kindergarten.
So kindergarten did the United States of America so that we could really focus in on where we are from, and some of them would like to tell you some facts and then some of them would like to sing you a song after. So I just want to go down and see if you can say that.
Yeah, this is Haley Rose Peasley. She's from my class, and this is Noah Layton, and he is from my class as well. So, do you want to share one thing, Haley Rose, that you learned about the United States? Do you have anything? How about you tell them what state you did and what the cool thing about that state is? You did this, you got to make the state of Maine, and what is so cool about Maine for you? Rangeley, you have a really nice camp there. Yeah,
Very
awesome. All right, Noah, one thing that you learned about the United States. You tell them. 50 left. There are 50 states. Very good. Awesome.
This is Samantha Crafton and Xander Owens. Samantha, you want to tell them one thing?
I learned that the 50 stars on the flag and the 50 states.
Very nice.
I found out that the old flag you have stars in a circle.
And this is Dylan Falls, Wyatt Hicks, McKenna Phillips, and Clary Dean Dexter, and they learned all the names of all 50 states in a song, so they are going to sing that for you. Are you ready, guys? Ready? Set, go.
Alabama and Alaska, Arizona, Arkansas, California, Colorado, and Connecticut, and more. Delaware, Florida, Georgia, and Hawaii, Idaho, Illinois, Indiana, Iowa, still 35 to go. Kansas and Kentucky, Louisiana, Maine, Maryland, Massachusetts, and good old Michigan. 27, 28, Nevada, 16,
Way down Mexico.
New York, North Carolina, North Dakota, Ohio, Oklahoma, Oregon, Pennsylvania, now let's see, Nevada, South Carolina, South Dakota, Tennessee, Texas, Utah, Vermont, Wisconsin, Virginia, Washington, West Virginia, too. Columbia, the last one, right at 49, only is 11 in the 50 states that rhyme.
Well, I think that, they did a super job. Thank you very much, kindergarten. Nice job. I think it's, a sample of really the hard work that all those students have put into the curriculum fair. While we couldn't have them all come in tonight to do this, I guess it's just a sample of what they did, and nice job by everybody involved, the teachers and the students for making such a hard push on this. They did a great job. So, thanks, guys.
So we can go.
Great job, thank you all for coming.
Great rest of your fair.
Boy, they didn't learn that till second grade years ago. Wow. That was, wow. Marilyn used to do that. Wow. That was wow. I used to hear her playing on the piano going. Would you like to just leave it in the room? You can. That's not an easy task. That's wonderful. Oh, you're very welcome. Wow. No, I doubt so. Great.
That's the paper you asked me.
To be returned.
On the table. If we were here, you didn't have to. That was so much.
Go over the building effect.
Actually, if you give me a copy, I can help you fold it. It's right on the top right there.
Yeah, we each should have one.
You don't have one?
Well, can I have you look over that manifest?
You get one?
I did.
Want Andrew tonight?
No, it was his meeting this meeting.
So Jay, is this the check they were talking about that was en route before when we had the area meeting?
Yes.
Okay,
Yeah.
so they now, it's not been processed, that's the third billing?
Yes, the third billing for the students.
Yeah, I told him to.
So is that
prepare
from
to
the
have someone else
500,000?
move forward with the
Yes,
discussion
that goes
tonight.
into the 500.
So about 122,000, no?
That's my,
I can't do it.
I would always defer to Andrew on anything that comes to money.
Right.
They said
I
it
told
was
him I can't
500
meet
and he said it was a
during
big
business
check
hours.
coming, so I
Regretfully.
think
Well,
it should
yeah, it's
have
the
100.
238.
Yeah, it should have 160 left or thereabouts.
These go to you, and there's one more coming for the manifest.
Thank you.
All those people heating up the room. Yeah, it was nice and warm in there.
That's great, they did wonderful.
They did. That was. I was just saying, they get one little girl who's just been practicing for weeks, and she's been able to sing that song on her own for at least 3 weeks.
Nice.
Yeah.
We need more of that.
Yeah, we do.
That was fun.
That's wonderful. If that doesn't make
And
you smile, not too much, today will. That's really nice.
Oh, they're so cute.
They did a lot of hard work on those
And,
folders
and
too.
you know, the fifth graders too,
Yeah.
they had that tea party, yesterday, and it was just, they must have had, they didn't have 50 people. Probably yesterday was nice.
Yeah.
Most all of these are still reflected in this too, right? Did I miss that last meeting? Redundant, most likely.
You're not using your pink pen.
Did I bring that? Is that my assigned pen? Might be when I run out of ink. My not ink pen.
I've seen this before. Is this something we're just starting new, or? I don't think I've ever seen one before. Is that something that come to us, or is it normally the BSAU work on?
It's always.
Fifth and fourth graders.
Oh. Because I've never seen one.
Check in case you skipped.
Okay. Well, that's why I asked, because I've never seen it before.
Oh, all right, great.
You probably don't know anything.
Yeah, I can try.
Hillside landscaping? You know, this one?
Was that the work around the front?
Hillside landscape.
They do the service for the water system on the field, the ball field. So they turn it on operationally and then shut it down.
The sprinklers?
Yeah, the sprinklers.
That's why I don't come to these meetings by myself.
It's a team.
Oh, that's not for you. If you got the food, there's a ton of it. Put up. Too much. I ain't way too much.
Are we getting any services at the town garage? I mean, why do we have so many for DePrizio again? Like checking cooler and stuff. I thought we had someone doing that.
I don't believe that that's been taken care of yet. There hasn't been a transition piece yet.
So they haven't done anything. So we're still doing everything, inspections?
Everything is still at
Everything is still
DePrizio
at
at this point in
DePrizio?
time.
Do we have any indication as to when we would have
We're waiting for
services?
them to switch over into the new.
To be perfectly honest with you, I don't think it's gonna happen. That's what I got when I asked at the selectmen's meeting a few weeks ago.
So we're gonna,
What's that?
Where were they going to?
They go to DePrizio's?
I mean, were they gonna switch to who?
Well, they would, the town hired a mechanic as one of the people in the town garage. And we were discussing whether we might, have, the mechanic might take over some of the work of the school buses. But from what I got from, maybe a month or so at the selectmen, I get courtesy and winter. They want to do it just as a courtesy, and we really can't do it just on courtesy. And then I got, it's gonna be a problem in the winter. So, it's not, I did ask if they wanted us to come over, they said sure. So, I don't know if the whole board would want to go over, me and you, being on the transportation committee, can go over some selectmen's meeting and talk about it, but it doesn't sound like it's really gonna probably move forward from what, the impression that I got from the selectmen, so.
so at this point, have you made any attempt to meet with DePrizio, maybe on the discount we talked about before? Or maybe getting some additional discounts?
I've already
That would be
met,
Tim.
but I've already met with the Prizios last summer, and
Right.
we're already getting a discount.
That's the max we're gonna get.
Still on the manifest?
Yes. You got questions?
Nope.
Are those all those the president bills with them?
Yeah, you want them? Hang on. I think it's this. Well, it's got like changed in coolants and stuff, and it's kind of steep.
Yeah.
They're expensive vehicles.
That's why
That's my only.
we had said that if it didn't work out at the garage, that we would be talking about that a little more with the preview. And maybe checking other options.
I think that that's something that we need to direct to Tim and have Tim do it.
It should be.
And we can have him come to a meeting.
DH?
Where he's transportation
Last year,
director.
yeah, I thought we were gonna have the transportation committee handle that.
We were last year.
So are we sticking with that, or are we going to just assign that over to Tim?
Well, I would assign it to Tim. If you
Assign
assign
it
it
to
to me,
Tim.
then I'll assign it to somebody, yeah.
I guess working on those costs, because we talked about if we didn't have the garage, that we would negotiate, try to see if we can negotiate price, and also see if there's any other options.
Yeah, and so it sounds like Steve has now heard that that option is disappearing. So if it's the board's pleasure, we'll see what we can get for other options.
Plastic cleaner, $92. That's okay. You see this? Plastic
How's everybody on that
cleaner,
side of the table tonight?
$92.
If plastic cleaner, if it's used for the swing set and things like that, the cleaner for those is very, it depends on what it's for.
Well, it doesn't say what it's for.
Do you happen to know, Bob, what the plastic cleaner was that we bought recently?
Is that for playground equipment?
Any
What was the
idea?
name of it, the product?
It's,
Did it say?
It says,
Plastic cleaner.
Oh, I know what that's for. It's for cleaning plexiglass surfaces. So where we have plexiglass at the new reception window when you come in the front.
so is that the only place we
Because
have
you can't use
plexiglass?
you can't use regular glass cleaner, so it's any plexiglass surface we would have. So cases or,
It'll fog it up eventually.
yeah.
Is that the only place we have plexiglass?
I'm not sure specifically.
Thank you. Can we get this on a future agenda for, we were gonna talk about combining those contracts for year-round to get one price on how, because we had two separate contracts. And one of the things that we're looking at is put it on the future agenda to have a sit-down and talk about maybe combining it. That was with you about, wasn't it?
Combining product purchase?
No, it was the year-round service, because it was plowing and then it was landscaping in the spring. But rather than having two separate contracts, to have one contract that would consist of year-round service. So it'd be the plowing in the winter, and then we talked about the spring, doing the landscaping.
Is this my plan? These things aren't usually prepared till this afternoon, something is that why they don't come with our packet to review?
Well, we try to be absolutely up to the minute, particularly this time of year, because it's getting down to the wire, and you gotta know every last one.
Sure.
Yeah,
Make sure everything's covered.
Thank you.
yeah.
You still have questions, you still looking, or what are you?
I'm just down to the last couple, and I'll be upset.
She's moving a little slower over here with dexterity.
Hey, listen. You do it with one hand.
No, thanks.
And
You're
you'll have
doing
to
great.
do-
You're
I'm
doing great.
right-handed, so. I'm trying. What is a short throw projector mount?
Short throw, the new LCD projectors.
Yeah.
They're short throw cameras, meaning they don't, you don't have them from a long distance away, so they have to have a special mount. So you're not putting them on desks where they get bounced, they're mounted on the wall, they come out and they drop it, so if you look over there on the Apple TV, you have an arm that comes out, the camera would mount down underneath that, and it would, put the projection onto the wall.
We have 16 of those. How often do we get a reading coach?
Several times a year, it's usually paid for out of the grant.
So this one here is paid out of a grant?
I'm not sure which one that is. That's it.
Absolutely.
Thank you.
Mhm. Yes.
Yes.
Okay, thank you. And the grant covers the whole year usually?
Yeah, it's several visits throughout the year
Oh,
for both
okay.
our reading and math.
Mhm.
Did you look at these, Bob? For the, yeah. Okay.
It's gonna be out of order.
Math is okay. You all set?
Yeah.
Everybody all set with the manifest?
It's just reimbursement.
I have no questions.
I'm good.
I have a motion.
Motion?
Second.
Motion second to approve the manifest, all in favor?
Aye.
Could you please copy? Thank you.
All of it, where do you want that?
Yeah, I'll take it.
All right. Let's see, minutes of the last meeting.
I had one change, correction, I guess, not really a change. On page 4, towards the top, the very last sentence of the first paragraph there, the policy, I believe you stated, was BEDH?
Yes.
Not BEPH.
Yeah. Okay.
I'm gonna correct the time the meeting opened. It says 7:03, it was 5:03.
Right.
That's a good catch, too.
And,
Thank you.
the sentence right above that, in parentheses, you wanna, strike that entire sentence, please?
Sure.
Where was that spelling?
Deb. I think the name is Norma Joy, not Norma J.
Joy.
Right.
Anybody else have anything?
I'll make a motion to approve the minutes for,
One second, there's a spelling here, I should have, there's one word up in the top part of page 2 that I saw the spelling and I should have marked it down. Of course, no, I can't.
On page 6, the SWIFT is not a grant, it's a partnership, so all reference to grant has to be changed to partnership.
But I think I incorrectly used the term grant,
Grant.
so to be accurate, I think it needs to stay. But you're right, Mary, it's not
Okay.
actually a grant. We'll clarify that when we get to that on the agenda.
Perfect.
Yeah, it has to stay even though it's incorrect, because that's what I said.
So it's a partnership.
Partnership?
Mm-hmm.
I can't find it, source. What's that?
I just have one thing. On the first page, I never seen this before, I'm just asking if this is normal. Copy of all handouts are available upon request. Is that something new?
It's never been on the other minutes.
Yeah, I was
Yeah,
wondering.
I don't necessarily think that needs to be in there.
You know
It's
what?
fine, I've consistently included a statement just because when the public reads the minutes, most of the time they don't have access to the documents that they're referring to. I don't have to include it, obviously.
All right, you want to know?
I had just never seen it before on the minutes,
it
so.
seems like a helpful piece of information to me.
Doesn't matter to me, it can stay.
It doesn't matter.
Yeah, it was just a comment.
Steve, was it that misspelling in chapter B, third line? Should be appeal, not
That's
appear.
it, yeah.
It's chapter B.
Appeal, not appear, on page 2.
Third line down.
Second paragraph.
I was looking for that A word.
Third line, appear, should be appeal. Chapter B, 912.
All right, you got me, where are you finding?
Paragraph
Page
B.
2.
1,
Paragraph
2.
2, no, paragraph B.
Paragraph B, the
Mine
third
says
line.
appear.
Mine says appear.
Mine says up here.
Mine
Oh,
says
that
appear.
one, there you go.
I haven't found it yet. Please help me a
Third
little.
Third
line?
sentence, two thirds.
Paragraph B, the third line down.
Found it.
Yep.
That's where it was. All right. Did I hear a motion?
I was starting to make a motion to approve the minutes as amended for May 1st. The public minutes.
A second?
Well, I just quickly I know he says amended, isn't it as corrected? I'm just throwing that out. As the minutes we corrected, not they weren't amended, right?
Well, I don't know. They've
Is that the
always,
same
I've
thing?
always heard amended, but.
I think it's commonly understood, I think correct, it's probably more correct, but it's commonly referred to as amended. I don't think it would be confusing either way to the public.
Okay. I'll second it then.
Motion second, all in favor? Aye.
Abstain?
Jerry, did you have?
Yeah, thank you, Steve. I wanted to address some problems that I hope have been solved today. I have a handout for the board and for the administration. You know, sometimes you walk down the same sidewalk 100 times with no incident, and then 5 times in a row you trip over the same crack. Well, we've had a problem lately in the administration of tripping over the crack of getting board meetings and committee meetings posted and, in the right time and not making mistakes. There was actually intended to have the board meeting start at 4 o'clock this afternoon, and it was my responsibility to get it done, and I missed it. I'm not the only one that has missed it recently, but we've been stumbling over this. So I spent a fair amount of time today developing a new administrative procedure, which went into effect today. So this can go either to the full board or to the policy committee to review it and make sure that nothing on this is inconsistent with policy. But unless there's some evidence of that, then this is the current administrative procedure. So what you see on the first page is a template so that we get the name of the board or committee. We write down the charge of that committee, because committees should have charges established by the board. Who's on the committee? Who's responsible for scheduling the meeting? Who's responsible for preparing the agenda? Who's responsible for posting the meeting? Who's responsible for getting the agendas posted? Who's going to be drafting the minutes? Who's going to be approving the minutes? So everybody's listed. The first page is blank, but the next 3 pages are examples from existing groups. The first one is the example of the Wakefield School Board. So it describes the elected members, who the administrative manager is. That's the superintendent, but it can be a designee sometimes if I'm not available. It describes where we post, who's responsible for getting the agendas posted. It's got all of these details. And then the next 2 pages after that are 2 other samples. I have the Transportation Committee on there and the SAU Withdrawal Committee. So that every time we have a new committee or we identify a meeting for a committee, we know who it is that's responsible for setting the meeting dates, who it is on the administrative team that's responsible for getting the minutes done, getting the minutes available to the public. It just provides clarity, and I hope that with more clarity, we'll stop having the sorts of mistakes that have made it harder for this board to get its work done. And that's, those are errors on the part of the administration, and that they're not acceptable, but what the best we can do is try to put systems in place to make sure they don't happen again. So this is what has gone into effective today. If there's anything that's inconsistent with board policy, obviously it will have to be adjusted to conform to policy. And any suggestions that anybody has about things that can be added to this, I'll just amend it, because the goal is, I don't want to be in the position again of making it harder for you guys to get your business done. That's not what we're here for.
Thank you, Jay. This is something that is going to be very helpful, I think.
Good, I hope so.
Thoughts?
Yeah, looks good.
As far as
Want to go to policy or no? Yeah.
was there a way also of making sure that, there was a request that there was an email contact or, remember Jerry's request, how specific was that to have it, is there an email alert list or something like that?
There is a list that's directly connected to the website. So when it gets put on the website, then anybody that signed up for that list would automatically get it. So that's why I specifically identified who is responsible for getting things up on the website, which you can see for draft minutes on website on page 2 for the Wakefield School Board, who's responsible for that, and an alternate. Because when it goes on the website that there are automatic emails that are sent to people that have signed up for that. So I think it's addressed in here. If we find out that it's not working, then we need to tweak it again.
Okay, thank
Well,
you.
this would be more of a procedure than a policy, so
Yeah.
I don't think it would need to go to the policy committee.
Well, the reason for the policy committee is that any administrative procedure is allowed unless it violates a policy. So if the policy committee looks at it and said, wait a minute, there's a policy that says 4 business days, and down here on the asterisk it says 5 business days, then the policy committee would identify, administration, you need to fix your procedure because it's out of line with policy. I spent a lot of time on this today, so I'm pretty confident about it. I went right back to the Attorney General's report for posting and all that sort of stuff and tried to put the right terminology in there. So, I mean, you can take it to the policy committee or not, but the intent is that I tried to write it very carefully so that there won't be any problems.
Would we be adding this as a procedure to an existing policy? Because we do have multiple procedures that are attached to existing policies, so is that the intention?
We do have, and actually there is a policy about meeting preparation.
Right.
So why don't I go back and just inform you at the next meeting about, and make this an attachment to that policy. That's a good suggestion.
Thank you, it was good.
I don't necessarily think that this can wait for a first and second reading on a policy. I think that this needs to be put in place immediately.
It is in place immediately, because it's an administrative procedure, it's not a board policy. The only reason for the policy committee to look at it would be to identify if there are any problems with it that need to get fixed, but I put it into effect today. It's in effect now, and unless there's a problem relating to policy, it doesn't matter, it is in effect now. If there's a problem relating to policy, it will be revised to be consistent with policy.
So we just need to recognize the new procedure that's been placed into effect today. So recognition is all that's necessary?
Yeah, there's no action to be taken. I'm informing you that this procedure went into effect today.
Thanks again.
Yep, looks real good.
We don't need...
You don't need to do anything. I apologize that it came up, but I hope this resolves it.
Public comment. Judy?
I just wanted to first acknowledge that the International Fair was great, and the students and the staff did a wonderful job, as usual. It's a nice event to go to. My question is, I was wondering what the status was of the high school committee. I didn't hear you, when you were doing committees, discuss that at all. And I didn't know if that has just been put on the side burner, or if you're still investigating high school options.
I know when we had a meeting down there in Rochester a couple Mondays ago, I don't think there's a committee that's actually set up at this point for a representative of the school board to go to. But there was talk about setting that up, getting that accomplished, so.
No, the Wakefield School Board had a committee that was visiting various high schools and looking at options. And talking about maybe making adjustments to the area agreement. And you never replaced that committee when you did a committee assignment, so I was wondering if it was still in place, or if it was moving forward, or just you've dropped it, or
Do you remember what you called that committee, Judy?
high school tuition options. High school options, I don't remember the exact title of it.
We researched the area schools, high schools that were potential.
We did discuss, excuse me, we did discuss it with Spalding, when was it, 2 weeks ago we were down there? And they requested that it be brought up again at our October meeting. So that's where it stands right now.
I have another question.
Good.
I was just wondering, I noticed that Ralph is on the PD committee, and I didn't know if that was a conflict of interest with his wife as a paraprofessional.
What committee?
Professional development.
What typically, I think our policy, and help me Scott if necessary, on a conflict of interest is that if there's a potential of perception of a conflict of interest, then it's incumbent upon a board member to say, I just want everybody to be aware that I'm on this committee and here's how it could affect me and how they would handle it if they identified a conflict of interest. And that gives the board an opportunity to decide whether or not they want to have that person serving on that committee. And my experience has been that the key is disclosure. So if the board or the public feels there's a conflict of interest, they have an opportunity to respond.
Well, professional development is part of their collective bargaining agreement, so that's the only reason I brought it up.
I didn't think of it, Judy. I didn't see where it may be, but I'll consider that, and I'll certainly, I take your advice on things. I didn't see a direct conflict of interest or immediate conflict of interest, and I guess diving into it.
Well, right now what they're in the process of doing is evaluations and things like that.
Wasn't there just a 3-year contract that was signed recently with the paraprofessionals and stuff like that? So
right, but it's part of their collective bargaining agreement that they're entitled to professional development. And the professional development group at this time is currently working on the evaluation process of the employees. So I would think that, I don't know, to me it appears to be.
Yeah, I could definitely see a conflict if I was trying to evaluate my spouse's performance. So you think there's a possibility
that?
No,
it's working on the evaluation tools and process.
I guess.
I can read the section of policy.
Please.
If you'd like. The board may employ a teacher or other employee if that teacher or other employee is the father, mother, brother, sister, wife, husband, son, daughter, son-in-law, daughter-in-law, sister-in-law, or brother-in-law of the superintendent or any member of the board. Such a relationship will not automatically disqualify a job applicant from employment within the school district. However, the board member shall declare his or her relationship with the job applicant, will refrain from debating, discussing, or voting on a nomination or other issue. The job applicant is expected to declare his or her relationship with the board. If I go up to the top, as elected officials, school board members owe a duty of loyalty to the general public in protecting the school district's interest. Therefore, the board declares that a conflict of interest is a personal pecuniary interest that is immediate, definite, and demonstrable, and which is or may be in conflict with the public interest. A board member who has a personal or private interest in a matter proposed or pending before the board will disclose such interest to the board, will not deliberate on the matter, will not vote on the matter, and will not attempt to influence other members of the board regarding the matter. Additionally, board members should refrain from engaging in conduct or actions that give the appearance of a conflict of interest to embarrass the board or personally embarrass another board member.
Well, I'm already embarrassed, so, maybe I should just withdraw. I mean, I'm glad we haven't been working on it, gone to committee meetings and stuff like that to date. And if I could request to withdraw my name from that committee, I would certainly do that, just to avoid any appearance or possibility of the conflict coming in the future.
Anybody want any point? I guess I'm on the professional development committee, and everybody.
I'd like to nominate Steve Brown to be on the professional development committee.
There is one meeting between now and the end of the year scheduled. It is June 13th, which is a Thursday at 3:30 p.m. Mary, do you know where that one is?
It's
scheduled for the SAU, but it's not big
Not gonna
enough to
fit.
hold it. So my
Yeah.
hunch is we're gonna be at Newt.
Okay, so place to be determined, 3:30 on Thursday, June 13th.
Thank you, Judy, for saving us from any future grief.
All set? Alright, correspondence.
Was there any other questions on it? No.
Didn't see any.
Okay.
Mr. McIntyre.
Okay.
They're asking for correspondence. Is
Okay,
that
yeah.
Ms. Headsman.
Okay. There's correspondence that I gave to you in a sealed envelope.
Right, but the correspondence on the Macedo letter?
Yes, thank you. You should have the original letter that was sent to the board, and you have a copy of my response that I wrote on behalf of the board. So it's pretty straightforward. I don't know if anybody has any questions.
Is this technically a non-public issue?
No.
No.
None of the questions qualified as being handled in non-public.
I'd like to make a motion, we move forward with this, since we kind of, we're on a little hold right now, but to move forward, make a motion for that. I make a motion.
I second that.
Can you clarify?
To whatever procedures we need to do from here on in, instead of dragging it out, basically, to move forward with the removal of Vivian.
To move forward to Superior Court, is that what you?
Yes.
Motion?
Second.
Motion and a second? All in favor?
Aye.
Aye. Opposed? 4-1.
Okay, I will recommend on the basis of that the board identify a time to meet with council in a non-meeting, because that's, I get a little bit of training in educational law, but when you talk about something of that nature, you really need to be talking to council. So that's something that we need to set up in the near future.
And I will make a motion that to create a non-public committee, and as part of the motion, the non-public committee members would be myself, Bonnie, Bob, and Ralph. Is there a second?
I'll make that second.
Motion and a second. All in favor?
Aye.
Aye. Opposed?
Aye.
4-1. Scott? You're up.
Oh, director's report?
I would assume that one of your names on the agenda.
It's like, what did I do? Short report, we had a vacation in there, it just pretty much says the things that I've been up to. I will elaborate on the last paragraph, because we have met and come up with a plan. As your school, the Paul School moves more deeply into multi-tiered systems of support for kids and to meet the intervention needs of students. We've changed some of the procedures used to select students for summer school. We've used assessment data to generate a list of 61 students with concerns in the areas of reading and math. Those students will be invited to participate in activities that should bolster their reading and math skills this summer. Special education services will be integrated into the program for students with disabilities. Mr. Gregoire, his team, and I developed the program within the parameters of the existing budget, combining special education and general education resources to meet the needs of your students. So we have a plan, and invitation letters are going out, and we're looking forward to bolstering student achievement through our summer program.
Thank you for your time.
It is.
Well, the initial presentation, that was all you had? Okay. So I saw the agenda go out of order, but I wasn't here for the, sorry.
You're coming back around.
Mary?
Well, we've been busy, attending lots of meetings, as you can see by the report. The New Hampshire Networks has been busy getting together quite a number of consultants for all of the districts in the state that we've been attending. They are currently helping us with getting us ready for the Smarter Balanced Assessment. One of the initiatives is to bring in K through 8 schools in that network system. That training will be happening in this summer, and we have a team from the Paul School going to that training as well. The only thing I didn't put on my report was the information about the SWIFT partnership. So I'll correct Mr. McIntyre at this point. This is a partnership. Our partners here in the New Hampshire area is the University of New Hampshire. This partnership would help us with consultants that would help with the multi-tiered system that Mr. Rooning was just referring to throughout the school year. We won't know if New Hampshire is a partner with the University of Kansas, who is the overall lead LEA on or for this initiative. We won't know until the state lets us know if they've been selected. However, we did get information in the meeting that Mr. Gregoire, Mr. Rooning, Mr. McIntyre, and myself attended, in that they were very impressed with SAU 64 and they were really interested in giving us help with our multi-tiered system. So that's about what I can tell you about the SWIFT. And you have a handout here as well.
Thank you.
Yeah. Bob?
Yes.
You're up.
Thank you.
Did you want
Yes,
to,
thank you.
did you want to start with Wells first with an update on that?
Sure.
Okay. When we looked at bringing the system to the field back online this year, to sprinkle the ball field, we fired that up with hillside landscaping. And we tested the pressure that we were getting from the well and versus the pressure that we were getting out in the field with the town water. And we were getting better pressure out of the well. So let me say, as we continued into that, we backed into rechecking, looking at the electrical again on each of the 3 legs for the power, and those this time around were equal. Okay. Well, if we go back in time, just a little bit of history, last fall, we had some trouble with electrical on one of the circuits, which we straightened out. But it was the end of the season, so at that point in time, we weren't in the mode of trying to do a retest and see where we were at. So in order to get a little bit more comfortable, because Hillside actually tested the amperage at the top of the wellhead, and we had an electrician test it inside the building, right at the terminal box where we were distributing that to the well, and that verified the measurements that we were getting at the wellhead. So we have then, since Monday, we've been running the well, on the well. One other thing that happened in between is at the very end of the season, when we were looking at shutting down the well system, the sprinkler system out in the ball field, there was notice that one area was wet. Well, it turned out that there was a crack in the piping system, and we don't know when that happened out in the field. So if you look at the edge of the field that would be parallel to the front of the building, it then has feeder lines that go into the field from there, and we do sections at a time. Well, halfway out, trying to get to the second field is where the break was. Well, we got multiple thunderstorms last year too, so we don't know if a hit might have ended up doing that, or when it split, or what actually caused it. But ultimately, you know, it became very apparent that it got much worse, hence we ended up seeing what was going on. So when we were getting issues like low pressure, thinking that the pressure, our amount of water that we had in the well wasn't enough, okay, we switched over to town water. We know the town water's pressure. Yeah, we were able to get some water out in the field, but at that point, as we had explained, having had different parties look at the system, it sure appeared that the motor and/or the pump was failing at that point in time. Okay. At this point in time, with that operating, it would seem obvious that we'd want to recommend staying on the pump system, getting more data, see if everything's running clean on that, okay? And I do want to say that one other thing that we wanted to do was to do a calculation for if we were to have stayed on town water for the rest of the year. When Mr. DiAgostino did a calculation for that based on the data that Joe got for what we're delivering to the field, basically we would actually end up spending for 7 weeks $4,000 for that water, because we get charged for water and sewer. We don't get any credit on the sewer side. All right. So if something does go wrong, it's just a point of information, and realize that we want to have some spontaneity to doing some repair, if it's the time of the year when we expect to be doing a lot of watering.
Good, well.
So it was the electrical that was bad, not the pump? In the well?
At this point in time, yes, having had 2 more electrical checks at 2 different parties when we went to bring the pump back online this year. Yeah.
That's good.
Because last year we had
okay.
trouble with one of the legs, and it
Right.
was, which we repaired. But we were well into the end of the season, when we had discovered that.
No pun intended.
Yeah.
Well, I was there when he was out there, and he said, I think, was he getting 13 amps or something? And if
Right.
he thought that if the well was working properly, it should be up around 23?
Yeah, he wasn't sure of the range, but they should have been equal and not different. What we got is, that would be much higher. I mean, basically 17, 18 amps.
So, but right now, it appears to be working fine?
It appears to be working fine. Yeah.
Oh, that's good. Maybe we
So-
don't have to replace it at all.
Right, and what Joe's going to do too is put it on a test cycle when we don't have children in the field, and make sure that we're getting, adequate pressure in each of the different zones out there. So keep a closer watch on it.
So for 7 weeks, it would cost us $4,000?
Correct, because we pay for water and sewer, so whatever the rate is.
That's great.
So,
Good news.
well, right, but what happens if they do run into a problem? Can,
Well,
you need, I mean, what are you thinking of, Bob?
I'm thinking we can, we'd have to go back out and rebid it, probably, because of the magnitude of the number, because we're
Right.
talking over 3,000, okay? But as long as we keep an active bidder list, and, I mean, we can ask them to update the quotes, I would think, too, just thinking out loud, somewhere along the way. It doesn't take a whole lot for them to do that, they know their own rate, it's just whether or not materials changed.
But
So
I
we
mean,
just would
that's-
have to have some spontaneity. We'd probably be more in trouble if the board skipped a meeting and you had a whole month, it would get a little expensive
Right.
for a decision.
So rebid if necessary, working fine as of 5:15. Have them contact us if there's an issue, or contact Jay to put it on the agenda.
Okay, how do you wanna handle that? I mean, if it, $4,000 for 7 weeks, it seems like an awful lot of money.
Right.
I know we had discussed possibly, and Andrew was gonna look into whether, because, I mean, technically, that's in the budget for next year's budget as of July 1, but Andrew was gonna look into possibly, if it did need to be repaired, repair it now and turn that $10,000 back to the town July 1.
Yeah, and I think, if the board felt, if the board feels, as I do, that we don't want to spend $4,000 for 7 weeks of water, then what I would suggest is that the board authorize, at this point, reallocation of funds into the maintenance and repair line if necessary, if the well pump fails, with an amount certain that we have to potentially add to the line, the remaining money that Bob already has, so that it's the board making an adjustment in its authorization for that line. If the cost is going to be more than that, then we have to come back to you. But having a little more money in that line, if we find out tomorrow that it's not going to work and we need to repair it, then it's going to be cheaper to repair it now than to put out $4,000 and repair it on July 2nd. But it really is the board's authority to grant the movement of money between lines. And in this case, I don't think there's any doubt that if it's broken, that it saves the taxpayers money if you fix it now rather than fixing it later. But I wouldn't want to say, move to add $20,000 into that line, because if that's the case, then you might not make that choice. But that's what I would suggest, is moving an amount of money that is not anticipated to be spent in another line into that line to give more budget room for Bob to work.
Does that sound good to you, Buzz? Does that sound like a
Right,
plan?
that's a bridge
or-
then to the end of the budget.
One. Alright, but, I mean, as of right now, I mean, you may not need to, but it'll be there in case you do. I mean, if we are gonna save that much money, it only kinda makes sense. And can you check with Andrew, and make sure that, if in fact it has to be replaced, that money from that, on that line for the pump in next year's budget be returned back to the town with the surplus on July 1?
I don't know. I don't know if that's an option.
You might want to wait till the next budget process, so the year's over and the appropriate.
But, so you'd rather spend $4,000 between now and then on water?
I'm talking about turning that $10,000 back to the town on the beginning of the budget season. You may want to wait through the budget season.
I just don't know what the process would be to do that. I can say to Andrew, how would we go about doing that? And you need to report back at the next board meeting and tell the board how to do that, because I don't know what the process would be for voting to turn back money from next year's budget when you haven't even hit next year's budget yet. I think
that's what I'm saying.
I just don't know what the process would be.
Good, man.
But at this point in time, the pump is working fine.
Right.
The electrical is fine, so it's a precautionary measure, but if we had, if it's working fine at this point in
We
time.
don't have to do it.
We don't necessarily have to do it, but you could come to administration immediately and say that it absolutely has to be put on the next agenda, and we could get it, vote on it, and it could be done rather rapidly. Is that right?
You could do that, and that wouldn't require the vote that I suggested. The vote that I suggested would make it possible that if it's broken tomorrow, and it's gonna cost $5,000 to fix it, we could try to fix it the next day and not start incurring a couple $100 a day.
Well, we understand that, but at this point in time, if the mechanism is working correctly and everything's working correctly, we have no idea what might break on it or what might happen, and that's gonna
Right.
be a rebuild, that's gonna be rebid, because you can anticipate a set amount of funds, but if you're not sure what's broken, how do you say how much it's gonna cost to fix it?
Well, you wouldn't. You would just put a maximum amount, and you would say, you would grant the administration the authority to move no more than $3,000 from other lines anticipated not to be expended into that line, only for use if necessary, to repair the pump. It can't be used for anything else, and obviously we're not going to repair the pump if it continues to work. So that's what I had in mind, but it's only 2 weeks till your next meeting, too, so it's not that big a deal if you just want to wait, but you could potentially incur some hefty fees.
Well, and how long, go ahead, Bob.
I was gonna say, sourcing another motor and getting it in, sometimes there's lead times associated with that.
Yeah, it's going to take some time anyway.
Stuff's not generally readily available on the shelf. Whenever I order any equipment, I always end up facing a lead time to get it in.
Even from a pump? Even from a well company?
I mean, they don't have that pump. They've got to find it somewhere in the distribution setup. Right. Yeah. And I can't even order, I don't even order like whole fan, because there's fit-up pieces that you end up having to order that's they're not going to last. Well, it takes time to put it together.
And how long has the pump been up and running now, Bob? Couple
There was
weeks.
some repairs done, I think, back in the late 90s, I believe it was.
No, I mean, how long has the pump up this year?
Oh, this year, I thought you were saying age.
No.
Yeah. It would have only been, just since Monday, back online.
This Monday?
Second one, yeah. We did the test last week and then put it online this past Monday.
So it's only been 2 days?
Yeah, that melts, yeah.
I don't know, what does everybody else think?
So if it breaks down, we couldn't just do an emergency meeting to take care of that if that's the case, or?
Or we just want to vote on it now and put some funds in there for security?
Do it that way too.
Well, we don't really,
Know how much
the
to
board
put.
doesn't know where the money's coming from, right?
And what
I
it's
mean,
really gonna be.
We'd be short-circuiting something else if we're sliding money around.
Well, I would think the motion would say to come from lines that we don't anticipate spending. I mean, we've got Andrew's analysis of what lines we're gonna be in the black on, and so he would pull money out of those lines, so you no longer have the authority to spend them in those lines, and put them into the repair line, so that there's no more money added, and you've gotta take it from a place that you're not gonna spend it. And, you could, hopefully it's just gonna work, but potentially you don't wanna see $4,000 worth of sewer fees before you get it fixed either.
No.
So where do you go with it? Go with the lowest bid?
That's what, 7,000?
Mm-hmm.
That's the lowest?
Mm-hmm. This is 10,500.
Wow, it's a big difference.
And if you look, this company is the one that did the original work.
So we got 3 quotes?
Mm-hmm. And the company that did the original work is this
We're
quote.
talking a huge difference.
Yep.
What do you think? Did we be on the safe side?
Yeah,
Hopefully,
yeah,
hopefully.
If not, that 7,000 is gonna be the 14,000. If we don't do that.
Plus the added four.
Well,
Right, that's what I mean,
I
we're
mean,
all added to it.
yeah, because that 4 is over half of the actual
Yep.
price to replace the whole thing.
Right.
Okay.
So, we want to make a motion, or?
Yeah, I make a motion to move the amount of $7,000 from unused lines to be used primarily or only.
Only.
Only,
Yeah.
only for the replacement of the field pump,
If necessary.
if necessary, or repair, if necessary,
To the Atlantic.
to the Atlantic Water Solutions Company.
Perfect.
I'll second that.
Motion second, all in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Aye. Opposed?
Aye. Can we go back on the
Motion,
wording
opposed,
just a bit?
abstaining.
Motion to move 7,000 from unused lines to be used only for the repair or replacement of the field pump. And then you had a name.
To Atlantic Water Solutions.
Being lowest bidder.
Lowest bidder and the original company that did the work.
They originally installed the pump.
That's what it
Right,
says,
yeah.
and date completed was 9/22/1998.
Is that Yankee at
Yep.
that time?
It was Yankee at the time, Bruce and Chapney.
And Bob, you offered the second,
Yes.
and the vote was 4 in favor and 1 abstention.
Yes, 401. Andrew's not here.
Before we move on, Bob, you want to address the circulator
okay.
pump?
Yeah, I did. One thing on old business first, if I may.
Yep.
Okay. At a previous meeting, Mr. Gregoire brought up getting a porta potty in for rental. And what we wanted to do there was to do that basically by the month during this season we'll be using the field. So we wanted, it would be one porta potty for $5 a month, and it gets cleaned once a week. It would be sitting over here next to the field. If we agreed to do that, we'd be taking basically 150 out of this year's budget and 300 out of next year's budget. And then the thought there was whether or not it should come out of, the school's budget, or, or if it ought to come out of the rec center's budget. We can handle that during next budget season to try and sort that piece out, so we could understand how we might cover the following spring if we wanted to do the same thing again.
How much did you say that was?
$75 a month,
And how many months do we need it for?
6.
Now, is that just gonna be for the use of the kids in the afternoon for the field, for the Parks and Rec Department activities?
Right, it's for non-school hours.
So will it be locked during school hours?
Mr.
Because-
Gregoire, however, I guess.
I guess that would be a concern, because the kids have the building open, would they be using it during, I'm just wondering about mischief
We
and
keep,
accountability.
We don't allow students at recess time outside of the fenced-in area. So we don't allow kids to go out there to do anything. So they would not be allowed to use that. I wouldn't want to lock it for fear that someone might lose the key. We'll leave that, who would have the key to it, rec passing that key around. But I think it would be easy enough for us to say, again, hold to our practice of not allowing the students outside of the fenced-in area.
Now, I do have to ask, is it just because of where the fields are located that the Parks and Rec Department is asking for us to pay 6 months of it? Because if we're not using it during school hours, it seems a little ridiculous that we're paying for it when it's Parks and Rec use. Because he wouldn't necessarily ask, or the department wouldn't necessarily ask for us to pay half of the toiletries up at the recreation fields. So if our children, I understand that the children are using it, but their coaches don't usually let them into the building anyway because of lack of supervision,
It's
do
not
they?
so much coaches, I think it's during games, where there are a number of people out there and people are using the woods as a bathroom, and that becomes an issue. Or they're asking to come in, they're banging on the doors without any security when we put that in, not allowing people to go in there. In the past, the custodian has let people use the bathroom. We'll be moving away from that as we have more security features implemented over the summer.
So what is your recommendation?
Well, I think that we don't want people using the woods on the side as a bathroom. I think if we kind of aid it for this year and put that in, work with the rec to develop that for the following year, I think it should come off them the following year. It is primarily for the rec department, but it certainly saves us the headache of having people out on our premise after hours,
So if we're paying for half of it, who's going to be responsible for maintaining it? Is it going to be the rec department or is it going to be the school
Right
district?
now, we would be paying for the full boat this year. The full is it $450?
Well, for 6 months, right.
For the 6 months. And then we work with the rec over this coming budget season to develop, how that, I think they should probably pick it up next year to kind of equal that out. And then possibly split it the following year if we find that's a viable option.
And who's responsible for cleaning the facilities?
That would be, that's part of the contract.
Yeah, it comes in the price per month. Then it's cleaned once a week.
Once a week.
Once a week?
That's what the contract indicates.
Yeah. Sorry.
It's not enough.
Well, I would think not. If you're talking about 200 or 300 kids using it for games a week, I don't necessarily know if once a week's enough.
Wasn't there, I thought it was 2 different commodes that were coming over.
We had discussed that. We've gotten under one.
So who takes charge of like toilet paper and sanitizer and all of that? Is that our responsibility?
My understanding is that's a contract, Bob?
When they clean it, they restock it.
If they feel that it's getting dirty too fast, would they correct that?
I think these are questions that probably have not been asked.
Good question.
And they do, they may not have all the capacity we would want, but whatever capacity they have is material that won't end up in the woods around the school. So even if it's not sufficient, I think if we can find it in the budget, whatever amount we can remove from the grounds of the school, if we can afford it, I think would be good.
And what about, the kids knocking it over?
I think that's a risk with any kind of vandalism around the building, not just with the porta potty. But, if it happens, I guess we'd have to, I imagine we'd be calling the company, the contractor, to come on, fix it, not having Joe and I out there lifting the porta potty up.
Are we responsible for damage to it?
Again, that's a question I haven't asked.
Or if it's missing?
God bless them if they want it.
Thoughts?
I'd like to have some of those questions answered, pretty much.
Okay. We will come back to you.
Okay.
Heating loop?
Yes.
Okay. I had one company look into what it would cost to tie in the 8 classrooms that are in the primary wing. And basically run hot water supply and return pipe through the building. It would go through the gym and go up to the boiler room. And then that allows us to, in the future, if we want to, the oil-fired boiler that we have downstairs basically can be decommissioned versus replaced going forward. So the cost of putting in 2-inch pipe that would be insulated as well would be about $36,000. So remember, one of the, if we were to replace a boiler downstairs, if we were putting in like a low efficiency gas-fired boiler, we'd probably be in the range of like 12 to 15 grand to replace the boiler. All right.
You said that pipe's gotta go all the way
All the way
upstairs?
from-
It can't just be connected right between the,
To connect between the buildings, you would have to use underground piping, and the cost of using that offsets staying inside the building.
no, but I mean, couldn't you just, where those two parts of the school meet?
They
Couldn't
don't
you,
meet without going all the way around the building. That's the only way they meet.
but, I mean, couldn't you, where that section is, in the next section up, above the ramp, couldn't you just connect those two right there? And then on both sides, say? On the feed and in the return?
If you wanna
Instead of
cross, you'd be
running a
going out-
whole separate pipe back up?
You'd be going outside though to do that. I'm not sure I understand your idea. In order to bring that up into the boiler room, you'd have to go outside underground in order to get to the boiler room.
Where are the pipes now? They're in the,
The pipes that exist now in the 8 classrooms come from down Sullivan, where the boiler's located.
where do the pipes, where are the pipes for the next section?
The next okay. Those pipes come from the boiler room, but they're small pipes. They don't have the capacity to add in 8 additional classrooms. That's the dilemma. So you
diameter.
have a whole separate loop, a separate circulator that's
And-
feeding that.
And that diameter pipe goes all the way back up to the gas boilers now?
The existing one now?
Right.
The next section, yes.
So that, right from the gas boilers, it goes right down to that primary, or where it ends,
Correct, right where those doors are, where the ramp is.
the ramp is.
Correct,
So that whole pipe is too small diameter-wise
correct.
to handle the next section down.
That's right.
So you'd chase a new feed to
Right.
the old service.
Right, right.
But
And it would
that's-
have its own circulator for the 8.
Well, but that, it doesn't, if it's gonna cost $36,000, it doesn't.
Well, it's pretty interesting if you do a really quick analysis. If you take credit for a cost avoidance of a boiler, okay, that takes, $12,000 to $15,000 off of that number. And then what I also did is, that I wanted to share with you,
But that 12 or 15, that's for in a less efficient boiler?
it's equal efficiency wise to what's upstairs, but it's replacing the one downstairs.
Right.
So if we don't replace the one downstairs, we put more load on the ones upstairs.
Right.
So we've avoided the cost of a boiler.
Uh-huh.
So that's a credit depending on how you want to look at the project going forward. So you take that 12 to 15,000 out of, away from the 36,000, all right? And then I want to share with you one other thought. If we already had that system tied into our current boiler set now, and we shut that oil boiler off this past fall, with the amount of money that we spent on oil and propane, if we were exclusively on propane this whole last season, we would have saved about $4,300 just running the propane. So if I take some $4,000 or $4,500 and divide that into the balance, then having taken that cost avoidance, you get about a 5 or 6 year payback on making an investment. It's a pretty sweet deal, I think, going forward.
The 4,300, that's the difference between the oil and the propane?
Correct. If we already had that system tied in and we were exclusively on propane, that's what we would have saved this year.
You can get a second bid.
The right way to do it, obviously, I think, is we would get additional bids and then its timing as to how and when we would conceive that would fit into our capital plan. But I wanted to share that with you. I think it's a really super opportunity to, really be aggressive and keep that as close as we can in the plan.
Yeah, but we wouldn't be able to do that this year.
Well, we could, is that part of the warrant article that was
It
approved?
could be, no, it could be next year's warrant article, as an example. It could be that close, next summer.
I was hoping it was gonna be a lot less money.
It would have been nice, especially with the delta difference between the oil and propane.
Yeah.
If that stays that way, for a few more years in the future, it'll really help us a lot, fuel-wise.
Yeah, well, they did say they think 2 to 5 years for the price of propane. Supposed to be stable, so. You got anything else, Bob?
I think that does it.
You talk about the circulator pump?
Oh, yeah, right, we did have one circulator pump that broke upstairs, that we need to replace, so we want to give you a heads up on that, as late in the year that it is, for $1,500, I believe.
$1,500 for parts and labor.
Approximately installed.
It's just not something we budgeted for and where we don't
I mean,
have the money.
we're not relying heat now, so if we're not now, it's something that we'll have to replace out of next year's budget.
It's just either way, we're gonna pay for it unanticipated. It wasn't budgeted this year, and it wasn't budgeted for next year. So whether we take it out of the surplus funds that we have at the end of this year, or we wait till next year, either way, we're looking at $1,500 that we didn't anticipate. Anyway, and as Bob said, we're not running heat right now, so it's not a big deal. I mean, we certainly could wait.
So it is broke?
Oh, it's broke.
Okay.
We're just not pushing heat right now. Nor do we need to.
Well, so, I don't know, that might be something we can hold off on until we get closer to
We certainly can. We could wait
the
right
end
for
of
the
the year,
11th
whether
hour.
we end up taking it out of this year or next year. I mean, it's gonna have to be fixed before heating season.
This is just a heads up to you. Either way, we're gonna have spent $1,500 out of either budget, unanticipated.
Right, but I think now we're probably better off holding off till we get closer to make sure we
This is just
don't
a heads
run
up
into
for right now.
any issues
Yep.
between now and June 30th.
Yes, sir.
Is that all right? Is that all right, Bob? I think we're gonna need it as well.
I think that was it, right, Jerry?
That was it. That was it for public.
So, you're all set, Bob?
Yes.
He's gonna stick around for non-public for security.
Yeah?
Yeah, he's gonna stick around.
Okay. Andrew's not here, so,
He doesn't, but I do have a handout from him. I would prefer to let him go into the details with you on it, but we can certainly talk generally about it if you want, or it can be just informational until you see Andrew next time. This is the information that was requested at the last meeting relating to food service operating costs and revenue.
I think probably hold off till next meeting when Andrew's in.
Yeah, I think he should do us talking about it.
All right.
Is this a comparison to last year's also? I mean, is that?
No, it's comparing to the budget.
We can't really compare to last year because
It's so different.
it's a different company.
Yeah.
All right. Anything under SAU 64?
Yeah, but before we go there, we sort of, Jerry did his international fair, but I think he had one or two other things he wanted to do. So if we could pop back to Jerry
I
before that.
neglected Nate. Somebody pass around.
Don't neglect Nate.
He does.
He says you do that a lot.
Oh, I don't know about that. Well, I'm a little self-centered. You asked me if I had anything else, I guess, and I didn't, Nate did. Thank you.
Mine's pretty straightforward. I'll let you take a look at it for a second. If you have any questions, I'd be more than happy to answer them for you.
Spring fever. Spring fever.
Yeah.
It's actually down from last month.
With a week off.
Yeah, hey. We weren't gonna mention that one if they didn't ask. Yeah, but that's still a week off right before vacation.
Even with a week up before, right? I think we're still looking pretty good.
Yes, definitely.
I was gonna, do you wanna do that during? What do you want to do? I was gonna do that during school. This is separately on the agenda.
Oh, okay. All right, that's fine.
Yeah.
Do you have any questions for me? All set?
Do they always spike a little bit before the holiday week?
They actually do.
Yeah.
Before the holiday week, we were under 20.
Spring fever,
That's-
vacation.
And then right when we came back, it was a little bit of a spike. More busing for both issues, before and after.
Thank you.
You're welcome.
All right, SAU 64.
I have a couple of handouts for you. We did have an administrative team meeting yesterday, so I wanted to share with you the agenda and also a handout that I gave the administrative team, so I'm going to give you a packet, so those 2 pages go together. We'll try not to work Viv's left arm any more than we have to. How are we doing? Did we make it down to Deb?
One more. There you go.
Okay, so you can see on the administrative team agenda yesterday, we started a book study on a book called Visual Learning for Teachers that I think the whole administrative team is excited about. It's got a lot of great information that we think is going to help improve instruction. So we're doing a book reading together. Mary is taking us through a protocol so that we're using a process that we think is a good reading process that we might want to implement in classrooms. So first we're trying it on ourselves to see whether or not it's productive to help us benefit from that. We did the first 2 chapters yesterday. The next item brings up something else that I wanted to share with the public in case you haven't heard it yet. Michael Tercey, who is currently the Assistant Superintendent for Curriculum and Instruction in Manchester, is going to be the next superintendent in Milton and Wakefield. He'll be coming on board on July 1st, and I think everybody's excited to have him on board. He hasn't had a chance to visit yet, but he's going to be coming up and visiting when he can this spring, and he'll be on full-time starting July 1st. We did a fair amount of time yesterday on threat assessment. I looked through this 2-page handout that I used with the administrative team. There's really nothing in here that I felt was necessary to sequester into non-public session, but it does give you a sense of the sort of things that we talk about when we're talking about emergency management, some principles of threat assessment, and some processes and procedures to be aware of, and what we do when we have any potential threat against the school. So that's all I had for SU 64.
Any questions?
Thank you.
Let's see, old business, I think we've already touched on taking care of the well. Update on residency forms.
There's been good progress since the last meeting with Spalding, although it's odd, we don't have the same number that they do. According to our records, there are 11 that we don't have yet. According to their records, there are 4. So we have sent our list of 11 to them to see what it is they know about 7 that we don't know yet. But if we're not into single digits, we're on the cusp of single digits. So there's been really good progress, and I want to thank Rochester School Department for all their support to help us get this done. It's been some good teamwork.
We aren't quite down to single digits yet, but we're still making progress, down to 27 residency forms. And I think our alert now has had some impact. We see a steady stream of residency forms rolling in. Sir?
The old method of having these turned into the office here, is that something you want to re-embrace, or how do
We're
you-
working on a new procedure route to have them come directly here.
Okay.
Deb Wilson and I just gave a draft to the superintendent, so.
Okay, thank you.
We'll bring that to you as soon as we have it finalized. Yes, sir.
School board business.
I've got a couple of things for you. Need approval on the 6th grade trip to Camp Calumet, which is scheduled for June 3rd through the 6th. So I need permission, that's an overnight trip, and that requires board approval. Camp Calumet's the environmental camp, the 6th graders.
Go off Route 16.
It's a great program.
It's a program that the board also budgets through the regular budgeting process.
Right.
I'll make that motion to allow the sixth grade?
6th grade, yes.
6th grade to go to Camp Calumet.
How many are there?
How many students are there? About 45.
I'll second
Maybe a
that
few more.
motion.
And we just received a new 6th grader today, so whatever that is bumped up by 1.
Motion and a second, all in favor?
Aye. In addition to that, we need to cut a check to them for $8,500, and my understanding is that that needs a board approval also, because it's $8,500.
For that
Correct.
field trip?
Yes, and that has been budgeted.
I'll make that motion to approve the $8,500 for Camp Calumet.
I'll second that.
Motion second, all in favor?
Aye. In addition, kindergarten and 1st grade have a request in to go on a field trip to the York Animal Kingdom on June 13th. That's in York, Maine, so that also needs board approval.
Budgetable.
That's just a field, it's just a regular field trip.
How is the cost going to be covered?
I believe it's partly out of their student account, partly I think there's a student cost also.
And how many students are those?
Well, let's say that's probably about 100 kids.
Chaperones?
Yes.
How many?
Offhand, off the top of my head, I'm not quite sure, Bob, but it's based on our regular ratio.
Okay.
All on one bus.
That would be illegal, Ralph. We'd have an additional cost.
It's a limo bus.
Double decker.
We could do a double
Very
decker.
well, they'd get a kick out of that.
So,
So the buses are coming out of.
kindergarten, 1st grade, our regular busing.
I'll make a motion to approve that.
I'll second it.
Motion second, all in favor?
Aye.
Excellent. Right there. Stack here. Just pass this one. Passing around correspondence with Warren LeBeckman from Back Bay. He did an analysis on our internet bandwidth. Why he's done our analysis at this point is we are going through right now our pre-test with the Smarter Balance, which is an entirely internet-based assessment that we'll be doing through the new Common Core. Currently, we receive, as you can see in this correspondence, we have a courtesy of a 10 megabyte residential connection through Time Warner. Through his bandwidth tests during the day at different times. And we have anywhere from 1 megabyte to 5 megabytes when under load, meaning so when it's being used. And we are dragging when we're under load. You know, if I load up my first class email, I can sit there and wait 2 or 3 minutes for the email to pop up through our what we have right now for bandwidth when it's being used. When we did our first Smarter Balance test last week, I had to make sure that nobody else was using the internet during that day, and that was only for 2 classes. When we go to the Smarter Balance in 2015, everybody's going to be testing in grades 3 through 8. And that's going to put us on a considerable load that we will not be able to sustain. Warren's recommendation is we bump up to a 35 megabyte connection or a 50 megabyte connection. Even if we went to the 35, it would certainly be a significant increase from what we have right now, where we're really seeing low or a bandwidth connection of 1 to 5 megabytes, of which just getting our email is a struggle at times. We could go up to a 50, and I think that would make things much smoother. The amount of technology and the amount of devices we have in the building currently, I think the more we can get, the better off we're going to be, obviously, but certainly that increased capacity comes at increased cost. If we don't do this when we get to the smarter balance, I do not think that we'll be able to maintain that smarter balance at an effective level. I think it's going to impact our assessment scores, and it's going to not reflect Paul School to really the capacity that they can do well in that test.
Well, but
Ralph?
can you, weren't you talking about time, that this should be covered under the current contract?
I believe they were going to provide the school with free internet and phone and cable, but.
They do, but they provide us with that 10 megabyte courtesy resident.
My question is, are they gonna charge that amount, either 174 for the 35 or 215 for 12 months a year, or would it just be the school year? Would it be disconnected and reconnected with an additional fee every year?
It's a very good question.
That I'm not sure of.
And there's 100 available to us.
I believe that 100 is through the fiber optics, which we don't have. We do not have Milton had to get wired up for fiber optics.
Oh, okay.
Fiber optics, I don't even believe at this point are available in Milton, if I understand that correctly. Is that true?
They came on board in January.
Okay, so they're just, when they had it wired in, they didn't quite have it. We do not have access to fiber optics up here. So when you see these wonderful commercials where kids are Skyping into other classrooms across the world and having their own international fair in their classroom, that's not something we can do. We have the capacity to do that with our devices, our smart boards, our whiteboards, all of our iPads. We could do that, but we don't have the capacity through our bandwidth to do that.
Or really slowly you could.
We couldn't, no, we couldn't, Ralph. You couldn't even do it. I can't, again, we have difficulty personally, I get very frustrated with the first class. I don't think it's first class as much as it is our bandwidth. But when I go to open up my email, I can see 3 minutes for that email to open up once I click on it. 60 emails a day.
Can you check on that?
I could, I mean,
Because he's part of the,
I don't have a super duper phone number to dial, but I can ask.
well, aren't you on that board or?
We're on, I'm part of the community TV that provides recordings for the town and stuff like that, but that's not really Time Warner.
I would suggest that maybe Andrew, as the business administrator, could call and negotiate this and see if it's gonna be for 9 months, 12 months. If there's, a
reconnection.
A reconnection, or if we keep it, or do you need it for the teachers to have learning, school program, or.
Negotiate.
Yeah.
Do you know, is the town still negotiating the Time Warner contract?
It is currently negotiating.
Still?
Yes.
Maybe we could have Andrew, give the town a call and see if maybe they can make that part of the contract that they're negotiating with Time Warner at present, that, we get.
Really, I mean, we will be fine through the end of the school year. It's just something I think we need to really put on the front burner and make sure we address as we move along toward the smarter balance in the Common Core.
You'd want to call Teresa to try to make that connection.
Yeah.
Town administrator.
Yeah.
So you can have, you'll put that down and have Andrew contact the town and see if they can add that to the negotiating list with Time Warner?
Yep. Got it.
And there's certainly other providers also besides Time Warner that we can also work with to look at, so.
Not in Wakefield, huh?
Well, I know Nate had a conversation with Fairpoint, who could possibly work with us.
Oh,
They had, at one of the technology committees that we had gone to, or I should say, conferences in Manchester, earlier this year, I spoke with a rep there who said they could build a hub, and it would be something that they would be able to centralize, that only our school would have access to it, and they could give us a much faster speed. He referenced Exeter as one of the schools that they've done that for, and I guess at one point he was talking about Exeter. Exeter's already up to 100 megs, and they're considering going to 300 because it's their whole district. So they could do something along that line where they could provide a hub that's specific to the school, and it never slows down, versus like other type of hubs, you know, you share it. This would be a school-specific hub. Now, he didn't give me a price because he would have to come out and quote it. He just said it's possible for them to build it and make it work here.
Tell Andrew we're going to go.
Yeah. And just one final thing, Steve. Last week Ms. Nason brought up that I had mentioned about textbooks being paid for. I did say purchase books, but I also did qualify it that it really intentionally just for the teacher edition. So Ms. Nason was right, absolutely right. She said I did say I purchased textbooks, but again qualified just as the teacher handbooks, textbooks, but also having discussion with one of the publishers that if we made an agreement to go with that program, they would provide us with the teacher editions prior to the school year's ending. So it wouldn't be any cost to us prior to. And that's all I have.
and which books were those?
Those are the new math textbooks.
Have you decided which company you're going with?
Deciding next week.
Deciding next week.
Yep.
Okay, everything take care of that. And you said you're all set on that? Jerry? You said
No,
you're
I'm all set, yes, thank you.
All right. Committee reports, policy committee.
Policy committee met last Thursday night at 5. Board packets went out at noon that day, so your policies will be in your next packet.
All right, thank you. Public comment.
Excuse me.
Go ahead.
The residency forms that we're getting in for the students at the fall school, how do we verify those?
How do
How are we verifying that these people are residents?
We have forms that we send out. They fill the form out, and there are certain items they have to return, bills or notarized letters from landlords, various.
So we do ask for proof that they
Yeah,
actually.
that's what we talk. Not just the letter that says we're residents.
How do you handle accusations that someone doesn't live in the town of Wakefield?
I'll hand it off to the superintendent.
We investigate them.
And what's the process for that?
It depends on the situation. Sometimes an investigation is pretty brief. Sometimes it's done, usually the first step is the building principal, and then there are times that the truant officer gets involved. There are a lot of different steps that can be taken. Those are the most basic steps. You can get more involved. It becomes more costly. You can enlist outside entities that have skills and training in those areas. So, we go as far as we need to go until we get clarity. Sometimes you think you have clarity because you have something, and then more information comes in, and you're back in the fog. So most of the time they're pretty straightforward, but sometimes they can be pretty extensive.
And we pay for, private investigators to do this, or who does this? Who handles the investigation?
Who handles the investigation?
Yeah,
As I mentioned, typically,
yourself?
it starts with the building principal, and then the truant officer. It would be unusual to have to go beyond that, but if you go beyond that, then you'd have to look at who was available and what the need was, what the questions were that had to be resolved, and you would decide at that point who the appropriate party would be.
Okay.
Mhm.
Good.
I believe there's a board policy that says that any new curriculum has to be presented to the board and approved by the board, like the math program.
Well, yeah, I mean, curriculum is adopted by the board, and it's one of the board's responsibilities is to adopt curriculum.
I think
So,
you have to have a presentation, if I remember correctly.
I think what the board wants for information, I think would be determined by individual boards, but my esteemed right-hand man down there is looking it up.
Open to the public for comment.
New programs and courses of study shall not be acted upon by the board until the meeting following their presentation by the administration. So,
We'll be presenting it to the next board.
Judy?
Yeah, that's one of the reasons why I came tonight, because I knew it was Mary's night to be here, and I was hoping that there was going to be some type of presentation on the math curriculum, because I did hear Mr. Gregoire say he was thinking about Singapore math, and I have some serious concerns about that and some questions. And I was wondering if he was talking about Singapore math or math in focus.
Yeah, it's not Singapore math. Singapore math is not available, as I understand it, in this country, but there is an Americanized version that they took some of the concepts from Singapore math, and that version is Math in Focus, which took some of the concepts and processes and made them work for our country. That's the one that you've been looking at, am I correct?
Yeah, the change is more around language.
Yeah.
When they're using manipulatives or items, they're talking about things that American students would recognize. Cookies, biscuits, flowers, rather than empanadas that maybe not everybody in America is really that familiar with. I was at a workshop a couple of days ago on the Math in Focus in Singapore, so learned a lot more myself.
You haven't picked one yet.
We
So
have not.
Can I tell you what my concerns are about the Singapore math or the Math in Focus?
Sure.
I've read a lot of reviews on it, and it's very difficult to switch to in the higher grades. The higher grade a child has been in an American curriculum, the more likely a student will have to go back a grade level or two. And when a school first adopts Singapore math, the upper elementary grades will need heads up. There's no review. A lot of math programs will constantly be going back and reviewing things, and Singapore math does not do that. It teaches the concept completely the first time. At least they hope that they've taught the concept completely the first time. And then they move on, and there's no real review of previous lessons. My concern in Wakefield is that every time we switch to a new math program, kids get lost. And this sounds like a real easy place for kids to get lost. If they're already saying, comparing it to the American curriculum, you're going to have to pull these kids back a grade level or two. That concerns me if you don't take that into consideration and do the placement tests that are required for this program. Otherwise, you're going to have kids lost because there's no review that they can get on this program. But I do have some serious concerns, and also there are paperback textbooks and paperback workbooks. So I was just concerned about the cost and replacement of the program year in and year out. So those are the types
Your
of things
concerns.
I'd be looking for
In the presentation.
present
Sure.
next week, if you could
Address
look into
those.
those
Good
issues.
questions.
Great, thank you.
Yep.
Thank you. Ed?
I just want to know, who developed that curriculum?
The country of Singapore.
No.
No.
Oh, what?
It's
Math in Focus, or?
Math in Focus.
Oh, okay.
It's from Holt
Holton Mifflin?
No. Holt and McDougal, which is the American publisher. That's where the publisher that produces Math in Focus.
I have another question. The SWIFT, can you explain that, because I'm still confused what it is, who designed it, what does it support, what does it do, and are you asking the board to do something with that?
No, it was just information only. We're not asking for anything, because at this point, it was just a presentation to find out what the interest was for schools that are supporting response to instruction, which is the multi-tiered system of supports for students, so that we start closing gaps in students' learning.
And this is a partnership?
This is a partnership. We would have consultants from the University of New Hampshire to work with our staff. And that's really what it is. It's just a partnership.
To focus on educational gaps that students...
Correct. And behavioral as well.
Is that part of Common Core?
No, it's part of the state's support for response to instruction.
Mr. Chairman, my last question would be, last meeting there was a report that there were damaged vehicles. What happened to those damaged vehicles, and who was responsible, what's been done now?
The police were called when it occurred. The vehicle that was damaged was repaired. I'm pretty confident that the number was $982 for the repair of the vehicle. I think that was the number that might be off by $10 or so. We have not yet received any information from the police department that anyone has been identified as having committed that crime.
Has there been any attempt on preventing from happening again?
There was a discussion. Mr. Brown actually asked at the last meeting about some possible applications of technology because of the nature of it and trying to provide security. My intention was to update the board on that in non-public session for security reasons.
Judy?
Committee reports. Were there no other committee meetings in the last 2 weeks?
There was a Safe Route to School committee meeting that was last Tuesday, and I missed it. I don't know what the old process was as far as being notified of scheduled committee meetings. But I was gonna ask about that and try to make sure that we know what's scheduled, well ahead of time, and make sure that it's properly posted.
Was there a facilities meeting?
That was, when did we have, I'm just checking now.
Last Friday.
Was it?
Last Friday, you had a meeting?
2 Fridays ago.
Last Friday.
Well, Mr. Olet and I did meet with Andrew and Jerry as representatives to discuss their positions on cafe services, but we're waiting for Andrew to be here to address those issues and to present the board with what we are moving forward with.
And Bob pretty much touched on everything that we discussed at the facilities meeting, so that would take care of that.
Do you happen to have the minutes? According to Barrett, all subcommittees have to have minutes.
Yeah.
They have to be kept at the SAU, just like our regular monthly meeting.
Andrew took the minutes.
Yeah.
I would suspect he probably has them.
For which committee?
For the
Facilities.
For facilities.
And that's one of the things that hopefully is clarified with the handout today, so it's crystal clear who needs to inform when the meeting is, who's taking the minutes, and who gets those minutes filed and makes them available to the public. So
we have it all set up for all the subcommittees. We'll have their minutes at the SAU just as the regular board.
oh yeah, they have to be. I don't have I don't have the details done for each subcommittee. I wanted to bring you the sample of 3 of them tonight and make sure you were comfortable with the approach, but I'll be putting that same thing together for every committee.
When will the minutes be available for the meetings that have occurred in the last 2 weeks?
They will be available 72 hours for non-public, any non-public sessions, and 5 working days for any public.
So they should all be available now?
They should all be available, yeah.
How many more you got, Judy?
2, 3, I think.
Getting kinda late.
Quick.
Please?
I was just gonna say that you could actually replace the oil burner now with a gas boiler burner, and start saving the money now on gas for next year. And you could use the warrant article money to replace that gas boiler.
As opposed to creating the loop.
I think it was, price we had was $12,500 on the gas boiler last year. And you would still start saving that $4,000 a year on gas versus oil.
Would we be able to tap into the existing propane sources, or would we have to create a new spot for propane?
We would have to run pipe and regulator over to it. Switching over to it, no doubt be checking the chimney as well too for upper exhausting of it. But that could be done, as Judy had said. A sidebar to that is we have $25,000 in the capital reserve now, plus interest, which isn't posted. And then we would have, out of this year's warrant article, an additional $12,500, which would be, $37,500 then plus interest. So that's a viable thing to, we could get that done this summer if we opted, if the board wanted to go to bid on that.
Mr. McIntyre has his logbook, I think, there.
Yeah.
Can anyone petition the Superior Court for removal of board members? I don't think the law specifies. I think it says anyone can.
I don't know. Do you happen to know the table of contents in here is awful.
42,
I'll look in the 42 area and see if I can find it.
42, it says any person.
Chapter 42 is not in here. It goes from 40 to 72. Not all of the laws are in here, but I can certainly look into it if it's an interest of the board.
Any person could petition the Superior Court, so I could petition the Superior Court for the removal of 2 or 3 other board members.
I don't know. Don't know.
Or actually the same thing that they're going to do.
Don't know.
Choose to.
Sorry.
I think the way the RSAs are set up, everybody has the opportunity to do anything under the law.
And the last thing I had was I was wondering why Mrs. Sear Jane put in the minutes last week. She had added to the previous meeting's minutes that Ruth Chick had spoke at the previous meeting. That was not Ruth Chick that spoke, it was somebody else. Ruth Chick never spoke at that meeting, so I'm not sure why you had that written into the minutes. It's inaccurate.
To the best of my recollection, I asked Mrs. Chick if I had gone in to ask her or talk to her, and she said no. And then another worker stood up and also made a comment, but I needed to have it clarified in the minutes that I had not gone in and spoken with Mrs. Chick.
But Mrs. Chick never spoke at that meeting, and that's what you had put in the minutes. It was Mrs. Bastian, so I just wasn't sure.
All right, can I have a motion to go into you have,
I will make a motion to go into non-public under RSA 3C for,
We have security, we have grievance, and we have, if the board wants to, review of sealed minutes, which had been discussed as a possible topic. So, we go back to the,
Security is G, 91A3, 2G for security.
yeah.
What were the other?
And then grievance would be personnel.
Let's see, I believe. C, wait, 91A32C.
Yes, yes.
And what was the other?
And the other was a review of sealed minutes, which would be, well, it depends on what the minutes were sealed under. So it would be, well, clearly if they were sealed, then it was matters which, at the time, the board deemed couldn't be dealt with in public, so I would say that's C also.
Or would it be actually 3? 90, because I have 91A33. And if you want to look at 3, it deals with the sealed minutes.
Minutes of meetings shall be kept in the record of all minutes. Okay, I'll buy it.
All right, that's a new one on me, so it's 91A3:3?
Yes.
Yes, Roman numeral 3.
And is that all?
That's all I got.
Is that all covered? All right. Motion, going non-public and the
listed
91.
I'll make that motion.
Second?
I'll second it.
All in favor?
Clog eye.
Will that aye?
See your eyes.
Brown, certainly. Thank you for coming.
Point of order, is that legal?
What's that?
Certainly.
Why isn't it? Okay, Brown, yes. I mean, you know, thank you for coming.
And one abstention, apparently. 'Cause you're-
No, that's the non-public.
But going into non-public is a part of the public function.
Okay, abstention.
Thank you for coming, everybody.